Good evening, YouTubers. How you doing? This is Jesse with the Hellcat, and I'm about to change my clutch. I had received the Bad Boys garage clutch, and now I'm about to install it. So over the course of maybe a day and a half, I'm going to try to video this action as best as I can, so you guys can get an idea of what it is and what it takes to actually change out your own clutch. Additionally, I'm going to go through all the steps of removing the exhaust, removing the starter, removing the hydraulic pipes, all the electrical connections. I'm going to just show you how I did it. I know there's many ways of changing a clutch, but I'm going to show you how I got through it, and hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video and use it as reference if you're going to do your own car. I currently have access to a lift, and obviously when you're pulling apart a vehicle like this and pulling out a big transmission, you probably want to put it on a lift. Don't recommend doing it on your back, so without further ado, I'm going to turn this video around and just show you exactly what I'm going to do first. It's in here. I only got a couple hours to work on it, but it's going to take me a little time to video. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do first. First, I'm going to go towards the exhaust. I'm going to video exactly where the points are to pull the exhaust off, and then I'm going to take off the exhaust, and everything beyond that, I'm going to probably do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of walk you through it, and then I'm going to take it off, and I'll show you what the end result is. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I'm excited to do this. I'm excited for you guys to actually learn. If you're going to learn something from it, like the video and tell me what you think. All right, guys, here we go. Let's turn it around. All right, guys, I'm going to show you what you're up against. Here I'm underneath the Hellcat, and I'm going to show you how we're going to take off the exhaust. First thing is we have, obviously, we have the O2 sensors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug them at the plug and just take it down as one unit. You can see one. You got two over there on the right side, and then you're going to have two on the left side. If you see far up in there, I'm going to give you a little bit of light up there. You can kind of see that back one over there. I'm going to disconnect those electrical connections, and then after I do that, I have these two bolts right here at the cap. Okay, you have one over here, and then you have one over here. They look like they're probably, I don't know, maybe a 16 millimeter bolt, but I'll tell you what it took once I do take them off. So you got those two bolts that you're gonna have to remove before you can pull it down. So moving on back on the exhaust, it goes all the way back. Obviously you have the H pipe. I will not disconnect that portion of it because I think you take it off as one unit. So let's try that, and I will try that. You have the shields and things like that coming down. You'll have to touch those in order to get rid of them. But here we got the two hangers back here. Okay, in the back hanger here, you got a bolt. Okay, and that bolt will actually holds that hanger. And on the other side, same thing. Bolt hangs that hanger. And then you got the cutouts here for the exhaust. You got two electrical connections here. So it looks like it's just a push and pull. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'll push and pull it. I'll remove both sides on here. As you can see, there's an electrical connection there. So that exhaust should come down as one unit. In the back, where you have the back resonator, muffler, whatever you want to call it, you have a bolt. And I'm going to show you that bolt back underneath here. It's a little bit hard to see. I'm going to bring it back, and then you can kind of see back here. You see that bolt right there? All right, it's right in the corner. It looks like that's the hanger for this side. On the other side, there's a very similar bolt, and I'll show you that one right here, and it's right here. Okay, you're gonna have to remove that. That looks like it's probably a 13 millimeter. You're gonna pull that down, and I imagine after that you can start to pull down the whole exhaust system. So there you go. I have kind of outlined that. I'm gonna remove it, and about ready to take out the exhaust. Learned a couple things. Learned that, all right, when you actually remove the exhaust portions that are next to the cats, you're only gonna have to remove one set of the oxygen sensors. You'll see that the oxygen sensors are above the flange, so you won't even have to disconnect those. You can just disconnect them right at the bolts at the flange. Then you just move back, and then the second thing I learned is that the actual units that hold up the hangers aren't that easy to take out. So I've decided just to go ahead and remove the rubber pieces. It seemed like an easier thing to do, so I figured I'd do that. And I'm going to turn this around so you can see what I'm talking about. And just use a small pry bar, just lightly pry on it. I sprayed a little bit of lubricant on it so it's move over the hanger a little bit easier, and seemed to work out pretty good. The back bolts came off as expected in the back by the mufflers, and that drops pretty easily. I have actually put something next to, as you can see, I put something underneath the mufflers, which is kind of like transmission jack. It is a transmission jack, but I have like a gas tank adapter on there, and it's just going to hold that exhaust up so it doesn't go slam into the ground, so this can get held up. So as you can see, I've turned this around, and you can see right up here, that's where the exhaust cutouts are, and then you can see how I just kind of pried that back a little bit. Now it's just a matter of just pushing it with my hand. That will come off. Then I can drop the exhaust and it comes down easily. Then I'll start tackling the drive shaft. All right, up in the front here, at the flange, take those bolts off. You can use a 16 millimeter, just what I thought is a 16 millimeter, or you can use a 5/8. These two bolts are pretty easy to take off with a socket. This one's easy to take off with a socket. However, this one's tucked up there nice and tight. Can't really get a deep socket on it. You're gonna have to get a ratchet wrench in order to get that off. I used a 5/8 to get that off, I think, but I do believe it is a 16 millimeter. But a ratcheting wrench will take that off. And as you notice, I've kind of marked the bolts, all right? I've marked the exhaust bolts. Also, before I take the drive shaft, I have marked the drive shaft, so I know exactly where it's gonna go when I bring it back. So this is just out of precaution. And if you're going to mark the bolts, this is what I thought. This is just my system. The rear exhaust bolts, I put them right there. I'll just put the bolts in, just kind of like if you're taking apart a motor, you know exactly where your bolts are at. Use baggies, anything you want. Anyways, you know, it's just a system that I'll use to make sure that I have all the right bolts in the right places when I put it back. Hey, Hellcat owners, I'm back. We got the exhaust off. Next thing we have to do is take out that drive shaft. We're going to take out the drive shaft, and I've marked it already. The drive shaft is held in. I'm going to just bring this over the shoulder, and you can kind of see. Just a second. Let me go get myself a little bit of light here so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. Last videos I've done, people have talked about my lighting's not too good. And I agree, it's not good, but I'm working with what I have here. All right, so behind the shoulder here, you'll see that my drive shaft is right over here, and you can see back over here, you got a bunch of Torx bits here, all right? Right after I turn around and start taking these out, I'll give you the size of the Torx that you need in order to pull that out, all right? Right above it, you can see the shifter. I have a Barton shifter in there, so it's a little bit different than the stock one, but it connects the same way. We'll probably disconnect that probably next, and it avoids me from actually having to take the shifter out on the inside, I think. All right, so one note, when you do pull out the exhaust in this O2 sensor over here, you have that. You can see back here, you have that little that clip holder. All right, if you just remove that clip holder, you'll be able to get that that O2 sensor loom out of the way before you pull down the exhaust manifold. All right, hope this is helping you guys, at least as far as removing the exhaust. Before you move the drive shaft, you're gonna have to remove one of these pans or plates, a protector here, and you can see that the shield, that's gonna come off with, it looks like 8 or 10 millimeter bolts. I'm pretty sure it's 8. There's 4 bolts, and then you get to the drive shaft. I will take care of that right now, and I'm gonna pull off that drive shaft and probably call it a day. I'll probably come down in the morning and start pulling out the starter and transmission. All right, guys, hope you liked it. All right, in order to get this shield off, you got actually 10 millimeters. There's 4 of them. I'm going to go ahead and pull these out. Okay, guys, back on the drive shaft. I have them all loosened up. Just going to let you know that when you take this drive shaft off, you'll need a T50. A T50 to remove all these. Give you a little closer look at the drive shaft. You see, I made plenty of marks to make sure I know exactly where that drive shaft had went, and I'll put it back the way I put it in. Took it out. So there you go, T50. Move the drive shaft. I'm going to remove the drive shaft, and then we're going to move on to the next part of this install. Okay, we got the drive shaft bolts out. They came out. They have a some Loctite on it. It's the green Loctite, and apparently it's not too easy to find. So if you're going to replace the Loctite, it's available at Granger, or I imagine you could probably go to Mopar and get that Loctite. However, you just can't buy it at Napa or Advanced Auto or something like that. So you might have to do a little research to get that before you start this job. I think I'll probably be able to get away with reusing it. However, I might just go ahead and get some and put it on there. So, all right, so here's the carrier bearing. All right, you have 2 bolts here. You got to replace those 2 bolts or pull those 2 bolts out in order for that drive shaft to come out. They're 13 millimeter. I'm gonna take those out and drop the drive shaft, and it'll come out pretty straight. Up front, you'll see that you have a spacer there. I think that spacer is probably going to get disconnected, so I'm not sure if it will split, but if so, just make sure you mark the front and back. You see I have it marked already, so shouldn't be an issue keeping it where it's supposed to be. All right, so on to the next thing.